With me in the studio. How are you, Trev?
Good, thanks.
And we're also delighted to welcome to the programme Pat Spillane, Kerry Legend and very well-known pundit on RTÉ and elsewhere. Hello, Pat. How are you?
I'm very well.
Now, Pat, the game yesterday, I don't know, to my untrained eye, I didn't think it was the best game of Gaelic football I've seen this year.
Well, in terms of quality, it wasn't the free-flowing game that we expected. There's no doubt about that, because we're probably spoiled in the sense that the last match in Croke Park was Kerry-Dublin, which was one of the All-Ireland semi-final, which was probably one of the greatest games of all time. So, the two teams yesterday, Mayo and Dublin, are two teams who've adopted very much attacking football as their key philosophy. So we were expecting a free-flowing, open game of football, and it just didn't happen. But I'll tell you this, though, it mightn't have been free-flowing or on top quality, but in terms of excitement, entertainment, and intensity of the exchanges, the fitness levels, the physicality, and there were so many twists and turns, so many talking points, and the game was in doubt up to the final whistle, and
But was it really in doubt, though, Pat? I mean,
well,
Mayo did Mayo really?
2 points in it with a couple of minutes to go.
Yeah, but for example, towards the end of the match, the Mayo went for another point when clearly the game was over.
There's no doubt about it. Looking back on it now, Mayo will say, I just didn't think that they went for it. There were a couple of points down, and there was no urgency to their play. Time was at an essence, and you sort of said they'll either speed up the freeze or they'll go for a goal, and they didn't. I'm not too sure. I think it was something that afflicted their play all through the game. They just didn't play with the abandon that they've been playing all year. One of the things about an All-Ireland final is that, All-Ireland finals can inspire fellas, but all too often it can overwhelm players. And I thought a lot of the players, particularly the Mayo players, were overwhelmed by the occasion and didn't play to their full potential. And that's why you had skill execution and so many turnovers yesterday. But look, bottom line, if you give the people who were at the game yesterday another opportunity going back next Sunday to see a replay, they'd all be there again.
Yeah, that's for sure. But Trev, did you think Mayo were lacking that critical little bit of self-belief to take them over the line?
I suppose, Joe, when you have a record like they have in an Ireland finals, and after last year again, and 2 years in a row losing an Ireland final, that's 7 now in the last 24 years. All other counties, bar Dublin, would have been shouting for Mayo yesterday. It's just that once Dublin drew level, I felt then it was inevitable then that they'd push on, and even when Andy Moran scored the goal to get him back into it, Dublin went downfield and Bernard Brogan got a goal, and it's just the too little of their forwards in Mayo performed yesterday, and the team didn't perform. They don't perform in All-Ireland finals. They steamrolled through Connacht and had a great performance against Donegal, saw off Tyrone, but just in the final they can't put up that performance that they can during the year, and that's it.
And there's no question that Dublin were worthy All-Ireland champions.
Well, Dublin did perform better. No, they didn't perform as well as they had all year, and even that's another regret for Mayo, that Dublin didn't play exceptionally well, but they just did enough. Brogan 2-2 or 2-3 from play. Just a real leader there in the forward line, and when the big scores were needed, Brogan had them.
There is quite a controversy developing in Limerick football, Pat, about the seeding of the Munster Senior Football Championship draw next year, which effectively means it's going to be a Cork versus Kerry final. What are your thoughts on it?
It's a hard one to call. I can see the Munster Council point of view, in the sense that a Kerry-Cork Munster final will generate huge revenue, and that revenue is put to good use in terms of coaching and development. I can see the unfairness of the system, because it means the seeding system, it's weighted in favour of the two strong counties, Kerry and Cork. I can also see, the other problem I see is that I'm not too sure is there anything to be gained from a first round meeting with Kerry or Cork and getting hammered, and that's it. Maybe I think it's better that there should be some form of round-robin system. Let the weaker counties play each other, get a few games under their belt before they play the big gun. But at the moment, you saw, look, this year Waterford got a massacring from Kerry, Tipperary got a hammering from Kerry. I don't think there's anything to be gained from that either.
But doesn't it essentially mean that teams like Limerick and Tipperary and Waterford and Clare will, if this continues, be denied the opportunity of a big day out in a Munster football final.
Well, that's a fair point, there's no doubt about that. But I'm not too sure. The bottom line is, I don't think they're getting any closer. And the ideal format is that something that can improve the standards of the senior teams. And you look at the senior teams now, certainly Limerick seem to be on a decline. Tipperary have gone backwards, Clare have gone backwards, and Waterford are sort of at the bottom. So that was under the old system, so I'm not too sure. Maybe the new system might improve it, because I'd be familiar with the counties at development squads at underage. And the work at underage level is brilliant, and they're competitive. At under 14, 16, 15, these counties are uncompetitive with Kerry. It's when it comes to minor and beyond that they don't seem to. I don't know why. Now, whether that's because of the unfair seeding, whether it's because in counties where there's the dual players that they go to hurling first, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Now, I know you are an ambassador for Flora Proactive, and actually Trevor, who's with me in the studio, was our guinea pig for the Flora experiment during the year. And Trevor, you did all right, didn't you? You lowered your cholesterol.
I did, Joe, I did, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I did, Joe. Yeah, I was pleased with it. So yeah, I suppose Pat was supposed to take part as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how are you getting on with it, Pat?
Well, I tell you this. When I was in my 30s playing club football, and this is how it started. I just after getting married, and I'm still fit and playing regular football. And my wife demanded that I go for an NCT, for want of a better word. And I discovered that I had high cholesterol, which came as a bit of a shock to me, because I presumed playing football and being fit that you don't have high cholesterol, but you do. And for the last 25 years, I've had my cholesterol under control because A, I've been taking a cholesterol tablet, but B, I changed my lifestyle. I changed, certainly my eating habits changed dramatically, and the fries were dropped, the cheese was more or less dropped, the salt was gone, the butter was gone, and my cholesterol is now under control. And,
mind you, there is some research being suggested from the papers today, isn't there, that statins, unless you actually have a heart problem, may not be the best option in dealing with cholesterol.
Well, I tell you, one of the reasons I was put into them, I was just marginally above that magical figure, but my family history wouldn't have been great, and my father died in his early 40s out of a massive heart attack, so it was as much precautionary. But I can certainly say that my cholesterol since in the last 20 years has been well under control, and I think it's like I said, it's a combination of everything. But I mean, if anything, we're sort of, I like to get involved in a campaign to raise awareness of an issue that's a problem, and certainly in this country, there's 10,000 people dying every year from heart attacks, and that's more than all the cancers put together. So the bottom line is, if you can raise awareness of the need to reduce cholesterol, and that it can reduce the amount of the risk of heart disease, that's the message. But I mean, the big thing, it's very interesting. There's two issues I see here. One is that I see they've tested now in the Flora Proactive Cholesterol Club. They've tested 1,000 since March, but 73% of them are females. The male of the species, men are just reluctant, and men are slow to go to the doctor. And I'm just urging people to make them aware of the need to go to the doctor to check their cholesterol and how it can prevent heart disease. And
okay.
The other thing, the other frightening statistic, in these roadshows that they've been doing around at various shopping centres, testing people's cholesterol that Flora has been doing, 50%, 1 in 2, have raised cholesterol. That's a frightening figure.
Right, well look, thank you very much, Pat Spillane, for joining us this morning on all of that. And before we go, I want to cross to Live95 FM's Voice of Rugby, Len Deneen. Hello, Len.
Hello, Joe.
Now, Treviso...